Morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. I believe it is the 22nd of February today. And you can probably hear the dogs barking outside. They like to go out and bark at the dog that lives here on the land. They're out running around. I'm noticing my posture when I'm sitting in here. So this is good for me to take care of any issues I see happening. So anyway, happy Thursday, February 22nd, 2024 with my barking dogs. They're always happy to bark at the dogs who run around here or the kitty cats who come to visit that they're completely scared of, those kind of things. So who knows who's out there right now? They're fine. So I wanted to come on today and talk more about the question I asked you in my last offering, which was who's the one person on the planet who knows you best? And I don't want to give the answer away, but maybe some of you have figured that out. I once taught a class or an actual did a silent and stillness retreat about that, your greatest teacher, and asked that question. And each participant came up with a different answer, but they didn't come up with the answer that I knew to be correct. So as we walked through the retreat, they figured it out. So let's talk about that. And I want to reference the movie Forrest Gump. So I've seen that movie countless times, as we all have. It always makes me reflect. And once I taught a class on that movie when I was working on a psychic network, actually, I don't know if you all knew that about me or not, long time ago when I lived in California. So there's many scenes there. The class I taught about it in the past was about allowing and accepting things and how Jenny couldn't do that. And Forrest always did know how to love. It was her who didn't because of the horrible things that had happened to her in her life and et cetera, et cetera. But today, while I watched it, there was one particular scene that jumped out at me, or series of scenes, as a whole running time when Forrest was running and just running and people started following him. And there were reporters there asking him, why are you running? Are you doing this for some, bigger purpose? And he said, I just felt like running. And people were running behind him. They were getting inspired by what he was doing. They didn't really understand why he was running, but they wanted to run for some particular reason, and they needed to understand that reason for themselves. Did they want to be famous? Did they want to be in the paper? Were they encouraged by him and thought he was amazing and they wanted to be just like him, et cetera, et cetera? And then there's that scene where he's running and he, in the background, he's narrating and he's like, I've processed a lot of things. This is paraphrased. I thought about mama and I thought about Bubba, and mostly I thought about Jenny. And, it's a beautiful scene. And he's running with all these people behind him. You see the Arizona background, and then he stops and he realizes he's done running, and he turns around and he looks at all the people, starts walking back, and he's like, I'm done running. And they're like, well, what are we supposed to do? Right? Because they took all this time to follow another person and what his quest was in life. And then all of a sudden they find themselves stranded out in the middle of nowhere with no one to follow. So I wanted to reflect that for all of you, because what an important message. We want to understand ourselves so strongly that sometimes we will follow other people, even say the same things they say. We repeat the things they say, but we haven't always taken the time to understand ourselves. Why are we running behind a guy who's running? Why are we out in the middle of nowhere? Why do we find ourselves here? We're forgetting to ask the one person who knows us best. If you've figured out through this process who that is, please message me or put your answer down below. Who's the one person on the planet that knows you best? That's the person I love and peace, y'all.